He was the kind of man who didn't need to speak loudly to be heard. His gentleness carried a quiet authority, calm, unwavering, and deeply rooted in kindness. Every word he spoke came from a place of thought, never rushed, never careless. He was soft-spoken, but his presence filled a room with ease. From the very beginning, I was drawn to him, not for flashy gestures or grand declarations, but for the safety I felt when I was near him. There was something deeply grounding about his steadiness, the way he listened with his whole heart, the way he held space for others without trying to fix or dominate them. He didn't come bearing riches or promises of a glamorous life. Instead, he gave me something far rarer, peace. Real, soul-deep peace. In his arms, I felt like I belonged somewhere safe in the world. We built our little world with love, soft laughter, lazy weekend mornings, whispered dreams before bed. It was a life stitched together with quiet care, with patience and shared hope. For a long time it was enough, more than enough. But as the years passed, something stirred within me, a restlessness I didn't understand, a craving I couldn't explain. Maybe it was the sameness of our routines, or the way familiarity began to feel like a cage instead of a comfort. I started mistaking stability for stagnation. I stopped seeing his unwavering loyalty as a gift and began viewing it as expected, as ordinary. The warmth that once wrapped around me like a blanket began to feel too soft, too predictable. I started wanting fire instead of calm, passion instead of peace. And in my selfish confusion, I believed I could chase both without consequence. At work, there was a man, bold, charming, reckless in a way that felt dangerous and thrilling. He made me feel seen in a different light, as though he noticed pieces of me I had forgotten. His confidence was electric, his presence intoxicating. He was everything my husband wasn't. Unpredictable, impulsive, and exciting. At first, it was harmless. Casual conversations, teasing banter, lingering glances. But lines blurred. One moment became a kiss, a secret, and then a betrayal. I told myself it was nothing, just a fleeting lapse in judgment, a moment I could bury and move past. But guilt has a way of haunting the quiet hours. It didn't come crashing in all at once. It slipped in slowly, creeping through cracks until I couldn't escape it anymore. It settled into my chest like weight I couldn't shake. When I finally told him, my husband, the truth, I braced for fury. I expected yelling, accusations, maybe even silence so cold it would freeze me from the inside out. But he didn't scream. He didn't curse me. He just sat there, completely still, eyes fixed on the ground like he was trying to make sense of something that couldn't be understood. And then quietly he wept, not loudly, not with drama, but with silent, trembling tears that shattered me more than any rage ever could. I had never seen him cry, not like that. This man, who had always been my rock, my quiet protector, was breaking in front of me because of something I did, something I chose. I watched him unravel, and all I could feel was shame, not for getting caught, but for becoming the very thing that wounded the person who least deserved pain. He only asked me one question, in a voice so soft I almost missed it. Was I not enough for you? And in that moment, all the justifications I clung to fell apart, because the truth, raw and ugly, was that he had always been enough, more than enough. I was the one who failed. I was the one who took love for granted and traded something sacred for something shallow. That night, he moved into the spare bedroom, and from then on, the silence between us grew louder with each passing day. I tried everything, apologies, letters written with shaking hands, flowers he no longer acknowledged, desperate attempts to reach a heart I had shattered. But once trust is broken, words don't fix it, gestures don't heal it, love doesn't vanish in an instant, but it begins to wilt when its roots are cut. He still made my coffee every morning, still fed the cat, still did the laundry, but everything had changed. Those gestures, once filled with affection, had become routine, cold echoes of a life that used to be filled with warmth. He stopped smiling, stopped laughing. The man I once knew was there in body, but something inside him had faded, and I was the reason. He was mourning, not just a betrayal, but the version of us that died the moment I chose someone else. I saw in his eyes every day, The quiet grief of a man who loved deeply and got hurt anyway. And no matter how much I wanted to fix it, I had no right to rush his healing. Months passed. He still wore his wedding ring, but it no longer felt like a symbol of hope. It was a relic of something lost, a reminder of everything that once was. And then one morning he said he needed space. He packed a small bag, just enough for a few days, and told me he'd be staying with his brother. No promises, no timeline, just a look. A long, lingering look that held everything he couldn't say. His eyes brimmed with tears, and in a voice barely above a whisper he said, "I loved you more than you'll ever understand." And then he walked away. I stood in the doorway long after he was gone, the silence heavier than ever before. The house felt hollow without him. Every creak of the floor, every whisper wind to the windows reminded me of the life I had destroyed. His coat still hung by the door. His toothbrush still sat in the holder. I hadn't moved a thing, as if clinging to fragments of our life could somehow undo what I had done. But it couldn't. I knew that now. The thrill I chased vanished like smoke. And what I was left with was a haunting realization. I gave up something real for something momentary. I destroyed something sacred for a spark that burned out before morning. He didn't deserve the pain I caused, the betrayal I delivered, or the heartbreak I left him to carry. Yet he bore it with grace. And I must now live every day knowing that I was the reason a good man walked away from the home we built together. Sometimes the deepest regrets aren't about what we did. They're about who we became to the people who trusted us most.